Alright, you know the drill. I'm going to talk about something, and something today is LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. Now, as always, I'll go through my history with the game. Or I guess, my history with LEGO Star Wars in general. Because LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, it's kind of like... It's hard to talk about that game without talking about LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Is that what it was called? It's called something like that. And, you know, the games that was built off of. So, I'll just do a brief history before. I played LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, on the GameCube. That was my first experience with LEGO games. Well, that's not quite true. I had played LEGO games when I was a kid, back in, like, Windows 98 and all that. LEGO Island, LEGO Racers, LEGO Stunt Rally, LEGO Alpha Team, but, you know, that was like late 90s. You know, the LEGO game today, the LEGO formula is a lot different. There was no, like, formula back then. Now it's like, all the games play in a similar way. But anyway, LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, was my introduction to that formula. I know there was... The first LEGO Star Wars was the first modern LEGO formula game. And then I think LEGO Batman was the next, or it was the first non-LEGO Star Wars LEGO game. I don't know if that came before or after the original trilogy, but regardless. LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, was what I played the most as a kid. So, I think I had the one that covered the newer trilogy at the time, which was episodes 1, 2, and 3. But I didn't really care about those those movies as a kid. I was more into the original, episode 4, 5, and 6. So I was drawn to that game for, like, the characters and the stories and the movies they covered, all that. Oh shoot, Alright, sorry, technical problems. What was I talking about? The original trilogy. I liked the original trilogy of movies as opposed to the newer trilogy, so that was what I played a lot. I didn't play the complete saga when that came out. That came out on Wii, 360, PS3 era. Was it on the PS3? I knew it was on the 360 and Wii. I don't know if it was on the PS3. Regardless, I didn't play it much. I guess I don't know, I guess there was kind of like a phase in my life where I was into that, and then I phased out, and then I phased back in later in life. But the complete saga is what most people hold as, like, the best LEGO game. Like, this is... Maybe it's nostalgia, or maybe it's actually reflective of how the series has developed up until recently, but for whatever reason, people really liked the complete saga and thought that was, like, the pinnacle of the LEGO game series, formula, whatever you call it. I did end up playing it on PC, whenever I got into PC gaming later in life. Later in life, I'm not that old, but later on down the line, I played it on PC. Liked it well enough, but I guess the original trilogy is what I played the most as a kid. Whenever I did get into PC, I was playing all kinds of different LEGO games. LEGO Marvel Superheroes, LEGO Avengers, LEGO Jurassic World, there's all kinds of nonsense. I was playing all of them. So when they announced LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga was coming out, I was really excited for that. I remember they made LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens. That was a full LEGO game based on one movie. That blew my mind because, you know, LEGO Star Wars The Original Trilogy and LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, those games, all those levels covered 3 movies. And then the complete saga came out and they just kind of bundled them together. LEGO Jurassic World, that covered a bunch of movies. LEGO Avengers, that covered a bunch of movies. But LEGO The Force Awakens, that covered 1 movie. And I remember thinking, like, wow, that's gonna be, they're gonna have to do a lot of, what's the word? Padding to make this story last so long. And I'll be honest, I did play it, but I don't remember much about it. They did do some, I remember there was a little bit of, like, you're playing at the end of episode 6. So you're, like, on Endor with Han and Leia and all that. I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, that was... I'd forgotten they made that. Yeah. But then they didn't make one for episodes 8 and 9, so they just made one for Star Wars Episode 7. And then Episode 9 comes out, or I don't remember when it was announced, but after all those had come out, they announced the Skywalker Saga, which is all 9 movies in the trilogy of trilogies, one might say. I was really, really excited for this. You know, I put so much time into the original trilogy, and I kind of respected, you know, the complete saga and the first Lego Star Wars. I'd respected those for, like... I feel like Star Wars is perfect for Lego video games. You know, the Lego formula... I want to kind of stick to Lego Star Wars, but the Lego formula itself is really good for... It's really good for, like, fan service. You know, there's all these characters, you know, there's like familiar story beats and storylines and whatever. A lot like Dynasty Warriors in a way. Remember a couple episodes ago, I talked about Dynasty Warriors and how the Dynasty Warriors formula is really good for like spin-offs of other franchises. That's kind of what Lego Star Wars is, or Lego games rather. It's a good base to put like a franchise into. It's got like perfectly exploitable characters. It's got like a very simple combat and gameplay, and it's got a story, and you got, you know, these like collectibles that are kind of similar across all the different games. Lego Star Wars kind of, well, definitely, you know, cemented that. Cemented the Lego Star Wars. I keep saying Lego Star Wars, like referring to all the games. Because in my mind, I guess that's kind of how I think about it. Like, Lego Star Wars cemented the idea of a Lego video game, a modern Lego video game. All of them, for as much as the modern Lego games have done to distance themselves from each other in, like, mechanical ways. You know, they all have mini kits. They all have their, you know, spin on True Jedi, where you collect a bunch of studs. They all have these, seem like, method of getting characters and all that. It all owes a lot to that formula, and it's, to me, it's just kind of Lego Star Wars. So, very excited for Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga. Yeah, so it came out. Did I pre-order it? I don't think I pre-ordered it. I think I waited for reviews and then bought it kind of close to release. So, what did I think of Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga? Well, I guess I'll go through what I like and then what I don't, and then I'll talk about it overall. What I like. I guess I'll first talk about the characters. You know, the characters are what make Lego games special to me. You know, I love launching into a new Lego game. You know, you download it day one, you launch and you go into the free play or whatever, and you see how many empty spots there are for however many characters. You're like, oh my gosh, there's 100, 200 characters. Think of how many, like, obscure characters that had, like, one line in the original movies. You get to play as that person, or something that had no lines and was just, like, a background character. You get to play as them, and they have, like, abilities. That's what I like about Lego games. The characters. And the Skywalker Saga has those in spades. I'm pretty sure it has the most characters for a Lego game. Is it, like, 245-ish? 300? Maybe not 300. The point is, there's a lot. And it kind of muddies the water in that there's like 5 different Han Solos, 9 Luke Skywalkers. But I feel like that's kind of warranted in a way, because, you know, Luke Skywalker from the beginning of Episode 4 is a lot different from Episode 8 Skywalker. You know, they got different abilities, and they kind of fill different niches. And then, of course, they have different appearances and all that. But there's a lot of characters that are just... that you see once in the movie, and you're like, why would I want to play as them? And then you play as them, like, I'm trying to think of... what was that one guy from Rise of Skywalker? Claude? He's like a slug in the Millennium Falcon. He's like part of the crew. But he's playable. I don't have him unlocked, but he's in like the... characters are categorized into like what abilities they have. So there's like heroes, Jedi, Sith, scavengers, bounty hunters, and then there's extra, which is basically just like characters that wouldn't fit into any other category, and they kind of don't really have much special about them. There's a lot of characters in that. You know, you could play as like Jabba the Hutt. That's another character, and there's probably like 100 characters in that section. But they don't really do much, which is fine, I guess. You know, if you have so many hero or Jedi or Sith, I guess you need some like you need clods in a game like this. You need some wacky characters to give you missions, and then you get to play as them, and that's fun. I guess I'll talk about the planets. The original LEGO Star Wars games, those didn't have like an open world. It was just like a mission hub. You know, it was the cantina in the first, or LEGO Star Wars 2 and Dexter's Diner in LEGO Star Wars 1. And those were like very tiny little play spaces for you to go into, like doors that would open the main level. In the Skywalker Saga, it's like open world. Not just open world singular, but multiple open worlds. I think there's like 15 to 20 worlds in this game that have like, I guess they're not open worlds necessarily. It's just like big play spaces with a bunch of stuff to collect. It's kind of, it's weird to think about an open world. I'm trying to think of a game to compare it to. I don't know, it's weird to think. Because when I think open world, I think Oblivion and Skyrim and all that. Where it's like everything is in one map. But in the Skywalker Saga, it's like you're in Tatooine. And there's different sections of Tatooine. So if, you know, you're in a Mos Eisley, and then if you want to go to wherever Luke lived, there's like a loading screen in between those. There's no, like, you can't go there seamlessly. And then if you want to go to different planets, there's a loading screen in between that. So open world maybe isn't the right descriptor, but you kind of get the picture there. In Mos Eisley, there's like 100 collectibles, bunch of characters, and maybe a couple of vehicles to unlock, missions, whatever. And it's fun just to, you know, just to explore the areas from the movie. You know, you see Mos Eisley in episode 4, and it's like, okay, you see it from the perspective of the movie and, you know, how it's framed in the shot. But in the game, you get to, you know, you could maybe recreate those angles from the movie. But then you get to turn the camera around and like, oh, that's what's beside the cantina. And you go behind and you're like, oh, this was here, huh? I didn't know that. Now, of course, that's probably not canon or anything like that, but it's fun to, you know, it's a little theme park ride. And there's so many different planets and locales. You know, there's Tatooine, the desert planet. There's, oh boy, there's Endor. I'm struggling to think of any planets from the new trilogy. Naboo from the original, or the first trilogy, episodes 1, 2, and 3. You know, you think 15 to 20 planets, there's that many planets you can visit. Basically every planet that's mentioned in the Star Wars movies is visitable. And the story, is it good? Is the story good? It's funny. It's enjoyable. I think it's funny. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not high art, but the jokes they go for are funny. Doesn't make me laugh out loud. I'm like, that was a good one. I didn't hate that it was voice acted. I feel like that's a big hang up for a lot of people. Knowing me, like I said earlier, I grew up playing the LEGO Star Wars 2 and a little bit of LEGO Star Wars 1, so I'm most familiar with the, you know, they don't talk. Characters don't talk. They just kind of gesture about and, you know, they mumble around. What do they call it? Pantomiming? You know, the classic joke is from episode 5 where Vader tells Luke he's his father by pointing to like a family picture. And it's like him and Darth Vader or whatever. And that's a joke in and of itself. You know, the developers are like, okay, how do we convey this information that Vader is Luke's father without having either character speak? It's like, oh, Vader has a family photo with him and Luke in it. That's funny. At some point, I don't remember which game made the jump. I think it was Lego Batman 2, actually. Maybe Lego Batman 2? I don't know. They like, okay, let's do voice acting. Let's give these characters voices. And from that point on, it was kind of like, I don't think they ever went back to do like the pantomime, no voice acting thing. A lot of people hated that. A lot of people didn't really vibe with like, oh, these characters, these Legos are talking and the voice acting is gross. I did hate that, what was it? It was Lego Jurassic World, I think, used audio from the movies in the game. And it was distracting. I think it was solely a quality thing. Like the audio quality differed from the, because there was actual voice acting. Like there was random side characters made for the game, like a goons or whatever that would say random lines when you're punching them or whatever. Those would be a different quality from the lines from Jurassic Park, the movie, from insert year it was released. That was like a big discrepancy that, you know, you can't help but hear and notice. Well, either way, with the Skywalker Saga, they don't use the clips from the movie. They have their own script. Little bits are taken out, but it mostly follows the same thing, but characters' words are different here and there, and they re-recorded all the lines. I didn't hate that. I did not hate that characters spoke. I don't know what to say much more other than that. I feel like that's a big point for a lot of people about the newer games, but that never stuck with me for whatever reason. With that, I guess we'll get into what I don't like. We'll go back to the story. The story, specifically like the narrative, it rushes through certain story beats. Missions in the original game were 40 minutes long-ish. You know, they were long. They were long things. And missions that were in LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, those might not exist in the Skywalker Saga. You know, if you're thinking of any particular level in the first game, I'm trying to think of one. There was a level in LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, where in episode 6, you're on Endor, and you go into the Stormtrooper base and you're doing all kinds of stuff to like disable the shields or something. That was one of the missions in LEGO Star Wars 2 and in the complete saga. You don't do any of that in the Skywalker Saga. That whole like 40-minute mission is delegated to Han and Leia doing that off screen. There's none of that content exists. Not even in like, not in gameplay or not even in a narrative. Like you don't even see it in a cutscene. And because of that, it just feels rushed in a lot of ways. I'm trying to think of other levels that were just like cut completely. I can't think of any specifics. I only can remember that one because I played it most recently. In the new game, there's only 5 missions per episode. And they're noticeably shorter. Well, I guess we'll get into missions. Missions is like a big detriment to this game. Traditional levels, you know, the 40-minute level that in the LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, they're much shorter in this game than in those. And some of the story, you know, what would have been some part of the level in the older games, that story is told in the open world. So you're in the open world, you do a little bit of a character's like, oh, go here and talk to this guy. And then you talk to that guy. He's like, okay, you want me to take you to the planet? And then it's like, okay, do you want to start the mission? So the story is kind of split up between going and talking to people in the open world and then starting a mission. And then once that mission's over, it's kind of continued a little bit in the open world, and then you start another one, so on and so forth. I gotta admit, I'm not a fan. I like the specific distinction between, like, this is a level, and this is the hub. Now, in LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2, that was kind of different because the hub was like, there wasn't anything to do there. It was just like it was effectively a level selection screen where you could, you know, walk around and do a little bit of combat, buy some stuff. But it was effectively a level select screen. And in this game, in the Skywalker Saga, it's kind of like a mixture. Like the story bleeds into the open world. And the missions themselves, they suffer. A lot of the time it's just vehicle stuff or maybe a short character action sequence or whatever. Like, missions in this game, I feel like they're like 10 minutes compared to the 40 minutes of the complete Saga. Yeah, it's not as filling. Like, levels in LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, those were filling. Those were beefy, like, oh, I'm satisfied after doing that. In this, it's like, well, that was alright, I guess. I guess I'll just kind of wander around, collect some Kyber bricks, and maybe do a side mission to get a character unlocked. Hey, speaking of side missions, I hate them. I hate the side missions in this game. Specifically missions that are, like, given to you by a character, and they'll say, like, oh, I left something on this planet, you should go get it for me. And then you go there and get it, and then you take it back to them. They're like, oh, thank you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot. I left something on this planet. Can you go bring it back to me? And you go over there, and then you come back. And then, oh my gosh. Just talking about it, it's exhausting. There's so much... Like I said earlier, this isn't like an open world. There's loading screens. And doing these missions, there's so much loading screens. There's so much padding of like, go to this planet, and then you watch a loading screen, and you come back, and there's another loading screen. It just pads the running time without being interesting. And the missions themselves, they're all right, I guess. Like the actual content of them is okay. Like if loading screens were half a second, I wouldn't mind as much. It still kind of suck. There's some that are just like, go to 4 different planets and grab one thing at each. Those are just awful. But some are like, oh, okay, you're on one planet and then you're running around it doing stuff. And there's like fun dialogue to go around. I remember there was one where it's like a Gonk droid beauty pageant where you're like rating Gonk droids and like their stats. And like, that's a funny sequence. There was another one on, I think it was Tatooine. Or no, it was Rey's home planet. I forget what that's called. It was like a children's play of Anakin Skywalker's life. And it was kind of fun with like little puppets, and you got to get the right puppets for the right character sequence. That was fun. It's silly. Some of those are fun. And then there's others like, oh, go to this planet to get some parts for my pod racer, and then to this planet, this planet, this planet. And then once you're done, all you get is like a vehicle or a character. And it's mind-numbing. And then I guess on top of that, kind of relating to it, there's just so many little holdups, little time wasters that just pad the game even more. When you collect a Kyber brick, that's the main collectible of the game. There's 1,000 of them. 1,000 plus Kyber bricks. And a lot of them will just be sprinkled throughout the world. Some of them you get for completing objectives and missions. Some of them you get for doing missions for characters. But every time you collect one in the open world, your character will pause to do a jump in the air after collecting one. Like a Mario 64 type thing where he collects a power star and he kind of like, Yahoo! I don't know if he says Yahoo. It's like that for this game. And it's annoying. It breaks up the flow. I remember collected, I think I'm at like 50%-ish completion for the game, 60%. Collecting so many Kyber bricks. And I've tried out so many different methods to skip this tiny little animation. Maybe I'll line up the sequence so you can see. Like, I'll be moving around, and then I stop. You stop once you collect it, and you can't move until it's over. I've tried so many different, like, methods to try and glitch out of it so I can just collect the brick and keep running. That's like a tiny, tiny nuisance, but it just builds up and it grates on you after so long. And of course, all the loading screens. It becomes a chore to play at some point. At some point, it's like, yeah, I get it. Just let me get the Kyber brick and move on. It's frustrating. And something I didn't expect, to be honest, is all the bugs. I'm not one to notice bugs in games, really. Like, honestly, this game is the only one I think I've, like, really noticed bugs in. That and, well, Fallout 4. But if your game is being compared to a Bethesda game in terms of bugs, ooh, you got some self-reflection there. Probably the most annoying. It's probably the least impactful, but it's the most annoying. whenever the game came out, there was this bug where, you know, in games like this, you unlock a character and there's a little glowing icon to show like, hey, this is a new character you just unlocked. Then you scroll over it and it goes away, disappears. I would do that, and then when the game would load back up, you know, when I'd quit and reload it the next day or whatever, or a couple hours later, the icons would be back. Every single character would have like a new icon. And that ruins the point of the icon. Obviously it was bugged out, but every time I'd load the game, you know, there'd just be a billion, a quadrillion icons indicating like, hey, you have new characters, new vehicles, new missions, new Kyber brick hints, new mission hints. Oh my god, go away. I get unreasonably frustrated at those. Like, if your game has like unread messages or unread icons like that, give me a button to mark all as read. Do that. Eventually they ended up fixing it. But now, another bug, C-3PO, one character, well, two characters. There's C-3PO, one of his outfits, and H1NT, two protocol droids. They have new icons that won't go away. They just won't go away. Is that worse? Yeah, it's worse because then, you know, at the beginning of a play session, you know, I could go through and like, okay, I got all the characters' unread icons read. So now I know if I get a new character, it'll mark it as unread. But now, C-3PO and H1NT, they are always marked as new, unread, whatever. And it'll never go away. Will that bug be fixed before they drop support for the game? Oh my god, I hope so. Or I'm going to leave a negative review on Steam, specifically pointing out that. Not talking about any of the other problems with the game, just that one bug. I think I had some bugs at some point that were mini-map icons that lead to like Kyber bricks or whatever, or characters. It would lead to nothing. Like I'd go there and there wouldn't be a character anywhere. I vaguely remember that being a thing. And then of course, you know, people talking about all kinds of mission-breaking bugs. Like I saw all kinds of that stuff on Reddit. People were like literally couldn't complete missions because some quest giver was messed up or something. I didn't have any of that, thankfully, but man, did that like unread icon notification, that really got to me. I think I stopped playing the game because of that. Okay, maybe not just because of that, but it frustrated me. And another negative toward the game, is this a negative? I don't know. It's weird to call it like a negative of the game. It's just the DLC practices. There's no mission DLC in the game. All they've released in terms of post-launch content is just character passes. So it's like, okay, here's 6 characters from the Andor show. Here's 6 characters from Mandalorian Season 2. 6 characters from the Book of Boba Fett. And that's cool and all. But there's no new missions to use them in. You know, right now I've beaten all the episodes. So it's just me going around the open world collecting stuff. But when that's all done, if I do go through all that, and they release more characters, there's no point for me to go back and play with those characters. You know, I'll launch the game and I'll play as what's some of the new, like I think they have some Clone Wars TV show character packs coming out, or it's already out. The Bad Batch? I don't know. I'm not hip to the new Star Wars shows and stuff. But there's no point. I guess it's cool for people that are coming to the game after. It's like, oh, if I play this game in 2023 and I buy the Super Deluxe Edition, it comes with like 50 extra characters, 100 extra characters. That's kind of cool, I guess. But for like meaningful ongoing content, it sucks. Which, I mean, the base game is fine. Previous LEGO games, hold on, did LEGO games in the past used to have DLC missions? Now I thought for sure they did, but now that I'm thinking about it, I can't think of any. Well, I guess I won't. I guess I'll bite my tongue there on what previous games did. But it feels like this game is perfect for that. You know, give a mission from the Andor TV show, or the Mandalorian TV show, Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, any of that. Is like a mission. That would be neat. Just to use this new Obi-Wan character model in. Well, I guess I'll talk about overall. What do I think about this game? Well, it was fun playing through the episodes. It was fun going through the story and seeing how they did their interpretation of the story, seeing how it was different from the complete saga, at least episodes 1 through 6. It was fun seeing like a new twist on the story we had seen before. But now that all that's done, now that I've beaten episodes 1 through 9, do I want to 100% the game? I'm at like 50-60% completion. That's a lot more to do. I think I have... How many Kyber bricks do I have? I think... You know what? No, there's... I said earlier it was like 1,000. There's 12,000... Not 12,000, my lord. 1,200 Kyber bricks. Because I remember I just hit 600 out of 1,200 recently. Do I want to collect 600 more? I don't know. That is insane. I don't think I will, if I'm being honest. There's... What is there? There's solving puzzles in the world. There's just randomly collecting them if they're, you know, floating in some weird spot where you gotta do platforming to get to it. There's doing side missions that take me to multiple planets just for one character unlock. There's replaying main missions to complete side objectives. There's probably like 50 other things I'm forgetting. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. It's fun to collect things in the game, but there's just so many of them. It gets boring after a while. You beat all the missions and you collect some, and you're like, okay, I get it. I get what this game is. They're not going to throw any curveballs at me. I've gotten my satisfaction out of it. I'm done. Maybe that's where I am. Maybe after I record some footage for this, maybe I just delete it off my hard drive and call it quits. Maybe I will do that. I don't know. Alright, well I guess that's it for this video. As always, leave a comment for a future video. If you got any ideas. I love ideas. I love making these videos. I want to hear your ideas. I want to make videos about your ideas. So give them to me. Give them to me and I'll do it. As long as it's not a bad idea. I don't do bad ideas. Every topic I've talked about in this series has been a banger. And I will not hear otherwise. Alright, thanks for watching and see ya next time. Pow, 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 I'm leaving, bye.